Diamond. You may recognise me from various posters around the campus. It's a bit embarrassing. And so public speaking is not my first, obviously, my first job or last job or any job. So forgive me if I ramble or go on tangents or anything. And I would like to point out, if anybody has any questions during, don't feel like you have to wait to the end. I'd really like people to just be like, what are you talking about? And what's that all about? What's the deal? That would be really good. So yeah, thank you. Okay, here goes. I'm 24, so quite kind of young, on the young side of the sort of self-employed. Actually first sort of had the sort of niggle when I was 16, 17, because I really didn't want to work in a chippy anymore. So I sort of had that niggle and a little seed planted, and I sort of went and had loads and loads of jobs and was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling this. So I carried on years and gained some life experience as well. So I'm self-employed, and I pointed out, obviously I'm very happy this way. This lifestyle choice that I've chosen really works for me, and I'm really, really happy. And even though there's some really hardship times, I'm exceptionally happy at what I do right now. So I'm very lucky. And I really like coffee. I'm sorry to point out. Okay, Siobhan time photography. Obviously a lot of photographers in Dundee, but it's a small business run by myself. I say small, it doesn't feel small. What I do is I offer photographic services to business organisations, commissions, families, individuals and wedding clients. There's obviously other variations of things I do, but predominantly that's sort of what I sort of my main bread and butter and stuff like that. I like to think I offer to the higher end of market. My wedding clients tend to be bigger budgets, and I've managed to after being doing it for a couple of years as a hobby, and I went to choose to do it as self-employed. I've got confidence to be able to market myself at the higher end of the scale. So I offer, I say I offer quality product. I don't know if many of you know, but you get sort of your cheap albums, your cheap prints and things like that. But I like to go for the really posh stuff, so I can put a bigger price tag on it. I like to justify that with good photographs, obviously, in the result. Obviously, a professional friendly service, because that's really, really important. I think one thing that I have learned when I worked, I actually worked in casinos before I started being self-employed. And when I used to stand at the tables and I used to deal cards and I used to deal roulette. Very weird and interesting job. But I used to get customers sometimes not being very nice. And the first thing I used to think, how dare you? No, I'm going to nip back at you and I'm going to tell you that you've not been very nice, and I want to get you in trouble for what you've done if they've thrown their chips or whatever. See, now I go, oh, I'm so sorry you feel that way. Okay, what can I do to fix it? Whereas before I would have been like, ah. So that's one thing I've learned in business, that sort of saying, the customer's always right. Yes, they are, even when they're wrong. Okay. So this is what I want to talk about. This is what I find really exciting, is the fear. Posing for a photo. The fear, and that's dun dun dun. And then he goes, it's okay, it's not real. The fear. Now, the fear is what most people I find that think or talk or even crosses their mind about self-employment is the fear of these things. Don't have enough money, your ideas are good enough, not smart enough. In fact, I don't know if you saw the title, but my title was Young, Dumb and Running My Own Business. And I'd like to actually say I'm not actually that dumb, but it was just quite funny. I'm not smart enough, accounts. I put that one in because that's how I felt when people start talking about accounting and keeping your books and receipts and stuff. I won't manage, and what if I fail? And now, these are things I definitely, it's probably the top of the list to sort of say, oh my God, these things all apply to me. And I can imagine probably will apply to most people in here, even if you feel quite confident, you'll always have in the back of your head, what if it doesn't work, or what if things don't go right? Well, you know what, you just have to deal with those and think of a sort of way to go over them. I think for the first one, I don't have enough money. Nobody could have started a business skinnier than me. Like, it would have been really, really tough. Like, I was kind of in change for my bread. And now I can sustain myself with what I do, but obviously there's a big middle part from going to be really skint to making money so you can pay rent, bills and stuff. Yeah, so I don't have enough money. There's places that will help you and support you, and I'll go on to talk about them a bit further in. My idea isn't good enough. Well, you have to make your idea good enough. I think when I started out, I was like, yeah, I want to be a photographer, that's great, and I was thinking, oh, I don't know how to work with camera, I don't know how to make a good photo. So you learn, so it could apply to anything. So I know a lot of people, there's obviously, you can offer services, or you can offer products, or inventions, I guess, or something. So to make that unique, it can be really quite hard. And I found it was definitely really hard because I know there was loads of experienced and skilled photographers out there. In fact, a lot of them were quite patronising when I came on the scene. I won't name anybody in particular, but this older man, he's probably about 60-ish. I remember saying, like, I really want to be a photographer. Can I come and sweep your floors, please? And he's like, yes, okay, sweep my floors. And I would go in and I'd make tea and coffee for his photography clients, and I'd be watching what he does and things like that. And I kept talking to him about how I wanted to be a photographer, and he was like, okay, like, you know, that sort of patting on the head. A couple of years later, he's like, how do you do this? How do you do that? I'm like, yes. So it's quite exciting, although you still get that patronising sort of thing being quite young, and being female, I mean, or male, depends where you are. Yeah, but it's about, you know, making your idea good enough. So I was talking outside, you were talking about games, you were going to, you know, you're going into sort of the game side of things, and, you know, it's about making, there's hundreds of games in there, what makes yours different and better, and what makes your service, and these things just a bit better than everybody else's, and about just making it more unique and more exciting and whatnot, or more practical, you know, because like somebody's making a Hoover, if you make a Hoover just as good as another Hoover, then there's nothing good about that. So do what like Henry did, make a wee face on it, that's exciting. Yeah, so the idea isn't good enough. It's about having real confidence in your product, your service, or whatever, and making it good enough. So it's, maybe it won't start off good enough, because I certainly didn't start off good enough. And if you grow, and it's all about growing and learning. Smart enough, here, that was definitely the first thing that I thought. I was like, no way, I don't understand the first thing. And to be honest, you get that guidance, that stuff sort of can come a bit later. I know a lot of you, obviously, to be here at the universities, are studying parts that if you are thinking about self-employment can really, really improve that your self-employment or your own business. So whatever it is you're studying, you know, and you go into self-employment, try and integrate that with whatever you've learned. Accounts, the concept of keeping my receipts, like I'm really bad. I get a receipt and throw it away and I'm just like, oh, I can't do it anymore, breaking through them. Yeah, you can, like just the concept of keeping and being organised is really, really, for me, really difficult. So yeah, I am quite organised for the best part, although I wasn't very organised like today because I'm running here. Yeah, you will learn these things, and I've actually went on to do a bit of like sort of independent free courses in a bit of accountancy, and realised I'm really crap at it, and now I've actually got an accountant that works for me, so that's quite handy. I won't manage. I sit in my studio sometimes, and I'm ripping at my hair because I feel so stressed. I'm not gonna lie, like that happens quite a lot. Like I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know, I'll pick up the phone because I need to stop doing what I'm doing because I've got 5,000 emails, and I'm just like, oh, this is too stressful. Days will happen like that, and it might happen quite often, but then I have another day that I'm just thinking, oh my god, this is great. This is really good, and it's smooth sailing. It's about having balance and about accepting that these stresses do sort of come with the job and come with the title. What if you fail? That's that's good. I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn a lot from failing. I failed. I went to the Prince's Trust for the first time when I was 19. And I swear to God, if they gave me the grant funding they gave me, it would have been spent at the pub. I would not have spent it wisely, like, at all. Like, I know I say like a lot. I'm quite good at that. Yeah, and like. Yeah, I went there, and I went and I want to be a photographer. Give me loads of money, help me. And they went, okay, Siobhan, go write a business plan. I went, what? Business plan? And I went and looked at all this stuff, and I went, oh, I can't be bothered, and sort of wrote a few lines, and I was like, my heart wasn't there yet. I hadn't had enough experience. And so that sort of fizzled out. But the passion was still there, the seed was there. I went along, and they obviously went, nah, you're not ready, which was really, really good. I'm so glad that happened. And I went away and came back a couple of years, and I've had £8,500 off them since then. So it's quite a lot of money, and you have to really prove yourself for that sort of money. Yeah, so what if you fail? It's mad, just try again. Learn, find the things that have been the problem, and then fix them. That's a very generic saying. I think a lot of you'll maybe be at these sort of lectures or speak to people at some point, and there'll be a lot of really generic sayings, and I hear them all the time. Like, if you fail, just try again. It's true. These generic sayings are really quite true, and they're really, I find them being a huge fundamental part of growing as a business. The realization, this is the little light bulb that goes, yes, I can do it. And I had that, and I remember where it was. It was my second last shift in the casino before I packed it in. And I was sitting there thinking, I was sitting on tables, and it got to the point where I was like dealing out cards like in my sleep. I was just so, like, I was in this routine. I was sitting there thinking, there's loads of things in that casino I was looking at, and I was looking at, if you did this a little better, if you did this a little better, then it was these ideas in the back of my head, and I just wanted to get them across. But if you're an employee for a company, it's very different to get what you think will work to the boss. Like, they're just looking at you like, hey, yeah, just deal cards and shut up. So these ideas kept like, I really need this what's the word, independence, and to grow and to put what I think how a business should work into practice. So I started singing last day, and I went, you know what, I'm going to do this. The next 2 days, I'm like, right, had enough of this, pack it in. And the next day, I actually went, you know what, I'm going to go and get premises. So I found premises, and it was all done very quickly. And I think I actually went to put up a slide to sort of say, I think maybe on this one. Yeah, this, how did I start out? I had the idea of wanting to be a photographer and to give this service to clients. I was going to point out in the other one that, like, it's good to plan things out, do things really structured, that's very boring. Loads of my great ideas have been really spontaneous. They have been some of the biggest marketing things, and the things that have given me a bigger return have been just crazy ideas. I went, yes, you know what, I'm going to do that. And it totally worked. So a lot of people will say to you, plan. Totally do that, and I totally agree. You really should. You need to be really, especially if you're going to take that big step into business, you need to have a really good constructed plan. But sometimes the best ideas are the ones that just come to you in your sleep. And that's sort of how I started. I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I've done it. It's a bit of who I am. But if I want something, I need it tomorrow or something like that. So I'm very quick. So it's not necessarily say you can't have a spontaneous idea and go, yes, I'm going to do that. Because that's kind of how I kind of started. That, it was a very slow process, but it was very fast in the real step forward. A plan. Now, when I started the first time, I had no forward-thinking plan. I had, when I went to the Prince's Trust when I was 19, I didn't have a Scooby what I was going to be doing in 2 years, and it probably certainly was not photographing people and giving a consistent quality service. Now, when I went back to the Prince's Trust to get older money, I knew what I was going to, I have an idea of what I'm going to be doing in 5 years, in 10 years. In fact, I've just recently expanded and signed a lease for a 5-year term, so I really don't have much option other than to stick at it for the next 5 years. So you've got your idea, you've got your plan. And what next? It says the support. the support, and the support can come from professionals, but for me, a lot of support came from my family. I come from a long line of male, my dad's side, self-employed, were all roofers. Roofers and builders for years. And obviously, I popped out, I was a girl, and I went, oh no, oh, I can't be a roofer, what am I going to do? I was like, I think when I was about 10, climbed up a ladder, and I was like, God, I feel sick. I was like, oh God, no, that's not going to work. So, yeah, but my dad was self-employed. Now, he's, like I said, he's a roofer. You think like a creative sort of job, and construction sort of work, and we can't really meet. Honestly, the best advice I ever got was from my dad. He was like, there was things that applied to everything, that applied to people in jobs, like, working for somebody else. Those things about giving, if you decide not to do self-employment and to go into a job with a company, you still want to step up that ladder. So a lot of those key fundamentals sort of apply to self-employment and to working for a company. So my dad gave me all this advice, and he also told me how to build a brick wall. Not that that's came in handy yet, but maybe one day. Guidance. I find support and guidance two different things. Support, actually, I should have probably covered more. My dad, when I sort of started up, I was really not making any money. I was really, really skint, and I moved out very young. I think I moved out when 16, so I never really had the opportunity to save. So I didn't go into this with a lot of money behind me. So occasionally my dad was there with 20 quid, go to Tesco, get you something to eat. Yeah, so that support there. Obviously, that's not everybody has that support, and some people have more support. So it's about, if you don't have that 20 quid from your dad once a week when you need your bread and milk, trying to figure out a plan to put together so that that you can survive through that sort of harsh period. And part of that is financial support. And some people do start up their businesses because they go, Dad, can I have some money so I can start a business? Now, I certainly couldn't do that. I'm not in the position, and my family aren't in the position that they could have just went, there you go, start a business. But they were obviously very, very keen to help me. So I went to the Prince Trust, again, when I was 22. And I said to him, here's my idea and whatnot. Can I have some free money, please? And through that, they sent me to various other places. Well, actually, E-Zone. E-Zone's enterprise zone is run by a man called Irish Gillen or something. He's a very, very nice man. And I went along there, and they started teaching you to write your business plan. And before I went along there, I'd actually finished my business plan. So I went along thinking, I was actually sitting next to this man who wanted to be a landscape gardener. Now, the man was probably mid-50s. I couldn't help but laugh. It was so, so sad. So this man sitting there, he just went along to this course, going, I want to be self-employed, and in his 50s, he's obviously, I think he was on job seekers allowance for quite some time, so he was obviously, deep down, he was really want to make this change. And I think it was Irish, she said to him, okay, so you want to be a landscape gardener, do you drive? And he went, no, don't drive. So are you going to get a license? No, I'm not going to get a license, don't want to drive. I just want to do it really locally. The man lives in Douglas, and if you don't know it, it's just a scheme park in Dundee. And he said, I only want to do it for my neighbours. Okay, well, how many times are they going to need their garden done? And the man was just so adamant that he didn't want to travel, he didn't want to sacrifice these things for this business to make it bigger. And you know what, you can't make those sacrifices, you're not going to get, there's loads of things that will stop you. There's loads of, whether it be enthusiasm, your idea, your money, there's loads of things that will stop you, so it's about just going, ignoring or overcoming these things. Yeah, so the sort of support is there, E-Zone, NEA, Princess Trust. These things are generally aimed at 25 and below, but there are things out from 25 to 32. I just think they become a little less, given when you get a wee bit older, so hurry up. How did I sustain myself to start off? Sacrifices. Oh my God, the sacrifices I had to make. I think I wore the same shoes for like 6 months because I just didn't spend a penny on myself. One of the big things that I noticed was friends. Some friends didn't really understand what I was doing. I'm going, I can't come out, I'm working. You're going, but you're your own boss. Like, you know, you can do what you want. You can just say I'm away on a lunch break. And, you know, the reality is you can't always do that. Yes, you have a bit more flexibility, but half the time, you're probably going to be working double the amount in employment. That's not necessarily the case. But for me personally, I ended up working more hours than any full-time job can offer me. It was very tiring. It was very, very hard work. And I made a lot of sacrifices, and a lot of nights out were missed. And obviously you try and explain to people and say, look, this isn't the case. I've got a deadline. The clients tell me I need to get this in, so I must get it in. And your sole focus becomes on doing such a good job for this client. You can't do these things all the time. You can't carry on going out every Saturday. And if you do, watch what happens. Like, more than likely, it won't succeed for a while. You'll get the opportunity later on. Now, I could go out for a coffee in the afternoon and it's okay. Well, that really comes under dedicating time, a lot of time. You just end up finding yourself going home and thinking about it. Now, don't always see that as a negative thing. See something, oh, I love it. I love thinking up new ideas that are going to work better, but it's constantly, you've got to constantly be thinking. And I spot things when I'm out. See, when I see another business doing something, I'm like, how can I take that and how can I make that better? And it's about having those ideas and that motivation constantly running in your head, because see, self-employed people, no matter what part of self-employment you're in or entrepreneurial work you're in, you're constantly thinking, you don't switch off. It's not like when I was in the casino and I had a mental shift. I go home and I'm like, oh, it's done, and that's it, and it's great. You can switch off, but I never switch off, and I highly doubt ever will. But I love it. It's really good. Oh, these are some pictures. Oh, it's a baby. Yeah, so part of what I do is portraiture. These are like commercial, like sort of, you want to know a secret? I hate taking newborn photos. Absolutely hate it. They put it everywhere, it stresses me out, takes ages. It really, really stresses me out. But my clients pay me for it. Clients will come in, and to be honest, I would have done a few things differently, but it's not here to critique my work. It's just I'm here to talk about some of the things that I don't like. So, like, the newborns is really difficult, but it's something that I do. It's something that I offer, and it's something that I make a lot of money on. And yeah, so it's sort of say you end up doing things that you think, well, I'll only do things I like, but you end up doing things wrong. I like the results. I like when I take a good photo, but it's much harder to do with babies that are screaming and crying and sleeping. And, yeah. So, but yeah, you get good results and you can sell them for a lot of money because newborn is quite obvious. That's quite an easy market to sell to. PR. PR. I actually really, surprisingly, if anybody knows me, they would assume that as like the baby stuff more than as like the PR stuff. I love doing PR work. Now these are just like public relationship shots for like different PR companies. This one was for a PR company called, I can't remember to be honest. So I was going around Scotland photographing different non-surgical cosmetic people, companies, things, something. So through that I learned something that I would never have came across. Like I'm never going to walk into somewhere that does Botox and ask them about Botox. I'm really hoping to need Botox anytime soon. But it was really, really interesting. And this part of work, PR, doing the work for the PR company, paid for me to go and travel all around Scotland. Really, really, it was hard work, especially because I've not actually passed my driving test yet, so I had to travel with all my equipment, but I never let the client know that I can't drive yet. Hopefully it's passed at the end of the year. This was one of my favourite jobs to date. That was also travelling again, photographing different farmers. So I went to all these different farms around like sort of Angus area. So I was down at a farm called Loxley Farm, and I met a man called Ivan Laird who had this magic seed or something. But it was so interesting, and I absolutely loved it. Again, this is actually from the skin clinic as well. I was just pulling up photos. So this sort of part of work, it can sort of apply to like, you go into self-employment and you're going to find a sort of content you go, I really like this, and whether it takes you travelling or if it takes you to just make things that you really care about, it's dead exciting. So when I get PR company like calls me up, I'm like, oh, what am I getting to do next? So yeah, that's something I really enjoy, and this is really good paying. This is another thing, like, PR companies pay the photographers really well. So I like that. I get paid. That's good. Can somebody guess what that is?
Word of mouth.
Yes! You're really clever. I was like trying to find little symbols. One of the best advertising things you will ever find is completely free, and it's called word of mouth. And this has been phenomenal. And it'll be phenomenal for any business, loads of business recommendations. Now, am I talking too much? Am I okay? Word of mouth has been amazing for me. Another thing I find off the sort of back of it, it's being likeable, like being really friendly. I mean, I'm like this all the time. I'm really excited, I'm really happy, and I'm really smiling. It's not just an act for this sort of haul. I'm over enthusiastic sometimes. Sometimes I need to tone it down. But because I'm like that, my client really like me, and they like me sometimes as a friend, and because they sort of get that sort of connection, especially wedding clients, they recommend me. Sorry, I've got chewing on my mouth. Say it again. They recommend me to other people, and that's how I got a lot of work. And and a lot of that is through being likeable and being friendly. I think it depends what you're in. If you're a public facing sort of job, like, as a receptionist, even if you're working for somebody else reception, if you're an arsehole, then people are going to notice that, and they're not going to enjoy coming to see you, and they're not going to like the business they're going in because you're an arsehole. So I maybe shouldn't have said that on there. That by having that friendliness, I see people coming back and people are talking, so I get people emailing me just to see how I am because I got on with them so well, and I've got a couple of wedding clients I go out for cups of coffee with because they're just really cool and they like me, and that's great, and it's about being likeable. See if you're not very likeable, pretend to be, because you'll get more customers. Weddings, this is a big part of my income. In fact, my projected turnover for next year, just for my weddings, is 22,000 pounds-ish. It's just solely on weddings. Turnover, not profit, but it's phenomenal. It's weddings, it's totally a good shout. People pay anything if you book up for weddings. Now, here's a trick that I don't think a lot of people will tell you. My first wedding I ever done. Now, a lot of people will go, right, I'll do my first wedding, I'll put it really low, the price, about £300, and £300 not going to cover your day, especially because I've been doing it for quite a while, but I was just getting on. My first wedding, £1,300. I went, okay, she must know what she's doing. No. I charged £1,300. I did a great job. Because I was so confident in myself, and I knew I was good at. They didn't know it was my first wedding. I've done singing shooting for other photographers, so I gained a lot of experience to do that. But they didn't have a scooby. It was my first wedding, and it was such a great idea because in business you can start low, and people see you as maybe a cheaper product, and you struggle to build up. You struggle to make your product a bit more expensive. But I started high, and I thought, you know what? See if it doesn't work. I'll bring it down. That's much easier to do because people think, oh yeah, I'm going to bargain. But people pay my prices. People are happy and consistently, have wedding clients on the phone. People booking me. Somebody actually changed the date of weddings. I was like, oh my god, it's crazy. So it's very exciting to know that people are really, excited about coming to book me for the wedding and things like that. But they're willing to spend what is quite a lot of money, for a wedding. That's sort of the higher price pack. I mean, I know there's dearer photographers, and I know there's a lot of cheaper photographers, but you know, cheaper is, I mean, most people know cheaper isn't better. It's just cheaper, you know, so if I can do less work for more money, I'm going to do that. Yeah, so sort of advertising for free. And this is my website. No, this is my website, that's my Facebook, and this is my Twitter. Yeah, I use these constantly. Like, I see them in my sleep. Your Facebook, like, whatever business you are running, get a Facebook. I'm pretty sure most of you can nod your head in agreement that in this day and age that, I know it's lost its jingle, I'm sorry. That in this day and age, you must have a Facebook for everything. If you don't have a Facebook, then people actually don't feel you to be legit, actually. I'm pretty sure, like, if somebody came up to you and said, I've got a product to offer, and you go, oh, what's your website, or what's your Facebook? Actually, I don't have Facebook and website. You sort of think about, like, oh, like, you know, unless it's a little granny with a blue rinse, then maybe. Yeah, look, that's my 5-star rating. It's actually 4.95. Somebody accidentally put 4 and I'm not happy about that. Yeah, so this is my website. Now, you can pay for your website and you'll all know that you get free websites. I think I use SmugMug, that's sort of specified for photographers, but you get like a lot of specialist sort of websites. So if you're a graphic designer or if you're selling for products, or there's loads of variations. So if you type in what you do or what you want to do, you go on it and I'll say free websites. And you'll get the really, really basic websites, usually just a portfolio website so you can have your product and a little blurb and whatnot on your contact page. I pay, I'm on the pro package for my website, and through that I got loads of extra stuff. And you know, a couple of years ago, I paid for a website when you get it for free. Why would you do that? There's loads of reasons. Like, it is actually so much more cost effective for me to pay for my website because my website does so much for me. Basically, if I go out and photograph something, I put everything into a client gallery, and then I once I've finished these photographs, I look away and I'm done. And those clients can go on and order their prints, and the company I use, Loxley, they take that order, print it, and send it to their house. Now, you can intervene that process if you're doing framing, and I do that, but that makes it so simple, and that's creating a faster workflow for me. So I think it's key, is making a fast workflow, effective website, and which you can get for free, but you can obviously pay for a better service. Your Facebook, now I don't know if you all know, but like I pay a fortune. I don't pay a fortune to Facebook, but I use Facebook advertising. It's really, really good. And a lot of people will be like, give me money to Facebook. Best thing ever. I get a lot of return, and most of my work I get from my Facebook. A lot of it when I don't pay for things, but I get a little boost when I decide to put a bit of money into Facebook. So yeah, a lot of my inquiries and that come through Facebook, because people kind of go to Facebook first before websites now. It's sort of the done thing. You check out their Facebook because everybody's constantly on Facebook. I'm sure several of you are right now. Yeah. And your Twitter. I'm not a big Twitter fan, so I never post on Twitter, but my Twitter is constantly updating. Now, because I just can't be bothered with Twitter, I link my Facebook to my Twitter, so I'm constantly am posting, and it's just linked, so whatever I post on Facebook, I post on my Twitter. So people that are on my Twitter and on my Facebook, or that are on both, that looks like I'm really active on my Twitter. You know. Oh, half naked lady, close eyes. This is what I really like doing, it's sort of like beauty and fashion and stuff. Now, most of the photos in here are really old. I'm doing a transition and I've got lots of shoots planned. But so I've had these shots for a while. This was for a clothing shop that's in the city centre now. And there was a hairdresser's at the other end. That was just a fancy one, and that was a promotional shoot for a pin-up thing that I'm doing. Yeah. I was called up and I was like, so okay, I've got a picture of a girl in her pants and bra, and I'm sure they'll love it. Yeah, so this is the thing that I sort of enjoy. I predominantly enjoy photographing women and beauty, sort of fashion. You'll know that because you've been to my studio space before, and there's always beautiful women kicking about. Justina being one of them. Yeah, I think that this is what I love doing. So I'm kind of aiming to get towards doing this more. But right now, I can't. Like, I can't constantly just be in fashion because it doesn't pay me enough right now. Yes, I can sustain myself. Yes, I can pay my rent. But I can't afford to just go, I love photographing women. And you know, in the pants and bra, apparently. It's just not how you do it. Sorry, you've got this sort of longer process to get. But by doing these sort of maybe not so exciting things, funds me to do these fun things in my spare time. So that's quite enjoyable, and I really, part of my goal is to fund what I want to do, essentially. I'm kind of going to skip this because we kind of spoke about it. I'll just go quickly. 3 weeks to advertise, tell people, obviously, that's really a given, etc. Social media networks and the internet in general. Obviously the internet is the holy grail. So be on the internet, not on the internet. That's just stupid. Actual networking. This is what people sort of forget to do. I do a lot of networking and a lot of free networking. I sort of do a lot more of this sort of pay to network now. But like for girls, there's this thing called Women Ahead. You've got council projects and things like that. Loads of, just Google it and there'll be loads of stuff that comes up. Really good. Trade advertising promotion for advertising for somebody else. That's the sort of, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. I do it all the time. Like people give shout out to my business because I've done it for them. That's a really good way because you're maybe catching an audience that you wouldn't have caught before. Yeah, pains, I kind of spoke about that. I've sort of maybe done this in a bit of a jungle way. Negative experiences. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. Negative experiences. I'm doing this first because it's positive next. Negative experiences. People asking me if my mum's home when they're calling to discuss things. And they're like, is your mum in? I'm like, I know I'm the business owner. And they go, really? Yeah, so I kind of got that. So I'm quite sure, I know they're quite young, so I let them off. Older people, I say older, there's no sort of age limit. Somebody a couple of years older or 20 years older can be as patronising as you know, somebody not as old. I find that a lot, like people going, you know nothing. I know loads. I don't know everything, but I'm quite confident that I'm actually really good at what I do. I'm really happy with what I do, and yes, I'm not at the end goal, but there is no end goal. The day that you say, I have completed and I'm the best at job, you need to start from scratch because you never stop learning. So a negative experience, like people not understanding the sort of not friendship breakdown, that's quite extreme, but people not quite understanding, and your parents going to you, go get a field job. My mum didn't have a Scooby, she was like, what are you doing? You're a troubled artist. Obviously not. But yeah, people not understanding fully what you're doing. What are you up to? Why are you working? Like, why are you working on Saturday night? You know, why are you out? You're self-employed. So those sort of negative experiences sort of come with the struggle, the tiresome struggle. But the positive experiences, as long as you have more positive experiences, it's always worth it, isn't it? Positive experiences, I'm much smarter than I was a couple of years ago. I'm much happier. I am more skilled. If everything failed tomorrow, I'd be able to walk in a job much easier because I have for 2 years been self-employed and done quite well and sustained myself for that amount of time. Much more employable now than I was 2 years ago. So even if things do fail or don't work, you're actually better off because having that experience is so valuable. So don't assume that if you take that step, take that risk, and it doesn't work out after so long, that's cool. You've got that experience. You just stick it on your CV and they're like, oh wow, that's really good. So don't always take it as a negative. Positive experiences. Know how to work a camera a bit better. It's pretty good. Yeah, that's quite exciting. My studio. I've got a massive studio. It's really good, and especially recently because I've recently expanded. I went back to the Princess Trust a year later and I went, give me more money. And they went, all right, you can give me £5,000. And from that £5,000, I've upgraded things, I've got new things. And this time it's a loan, so I'll pay that back. It's much better than a bank though. And yeah, so I'll pay that back, but from that I'm obviously going to make a lot more money in the long run. That's positive. People like me a bit more. I think think yeah, because I'm more sociable, I think people like me a bit more. Yeah, so that's the sort of positive experience. What happens next? I continue to grow and expand and become happier and make more money, essentially, and smarter. That's what happens next. And if that doesn't all go to plan, then I'll do something else, and I'll be fine. Yeah, I think that's a summary of everything, I think. Okay, if you have any questions, that would be really good. Because, yeah, I might have went on a bit of a tangent.
What benefit do you get from your Twitter?
None. No, that's a lie. I do say my Twitter, my personal Twitter account is not the most active. Like I say, I link it to my Facebook because I'm not very interested in Twitter. But that's very personal. Like loads of people prefer that over Facebook, and a lot of people use Twitter. So to even just have a presence on there, even though I'm not actively using it, I don't personally get any work from Twitter. I get it all from Facebook or my website, predominantly over that. So for me, Twitter isn't cute, although the couple of talks that I've done have been tagged, and then people like or share or retweet or things like that. So that's quite promising, but I've never actually had any work or anything, so it depends what you sort of, how you sort of look at it. And yes, go on, somebody. Oh. Ladies first.
You mentioned that when you first started off, you were working like double the amount of what you would be in a normal job. Is it still the same now, or is it?
I definitely still work more.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I take Sundays off.
Yeah.
And I force myself to do it. I'm like, I actually didn't yesterday, but that was just because I had this to get organised for, and I've got a shoot tomorrow. So I was like, oh, I can't take a Sunday off. But usually I force myself. I'm like, don't care how busy I am, Sunday you need that time. And I think, now I'd say I work probably about average of 45 to 50, which is quite a lot, but then you've got a lot of BuzzFeed time. A lot of time on Distractify, so that does happen. So I say working, but I'd say I probably do an 8-hour shift even though I'm there for 10. So I do a bit of like mucking around and things, because you're self-employed, so you do get away with that a bit more. So yeah, I do still work more, but it's dwindling to a more realistic, working time. And I go into work probably earlier now. I used to be like, oh, I'm self-employed, I'll go in at 12. Now I'm like, no, 9 o'clock. And then try to be out for like tea time, like 6ish to go home. Sometimes it's a bit later, but I try and keep that sort of normal-ish. Okay, but I don't work night shift before, so it's definitely an improvement. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You see, I'm interested in that stage where you decided that this is the thing I'm going to do. Did you start branding yourself and presenting yourself as a component after you actually set up the business itself, or did you start oh, I'm going to do this website and apply?
Yeah, it was sort of a weird process because it was a sort of hobby, which I branded my hobby when I was maybe about 17, 18. And obviously it's had loads of different faces. It's had fonts changed and colours changed and things like that, and I tend to be a bit inconsistent with that, and that's maybe my flaw. But because I started a hobby so young, I sort of had this idea, even though I wasn't running it as a business, I still had this sort of company thing forming slowly, and obviously now where this is my job full time, you've got to make things a bit neater and tidier. So I first got my website, I think when I was 18, and then I changed it last year, and it's now a new website that I manage and run by myself. So the branding sort of happened slowly, but then happened better over the past 2 years, I would say.
Thank you.
Hiya.
I just wanted to ask how long would you be doing unpaid shoots before you finally got the confidence to charge someone?
Oh, that's a great question. That's such a good question. You know what? They call it TF. You look at this TF, time for, or TFP, or TFCD. And as a photographer, you do this TF, and it's like a sort of trade-off, with a model, a photographer, a model and a makeup artist, like a trade-off for work. So as a photographer, you'll give your time and edit the photographs for the model, and the makeup artist will give her skill, and the model will give her time and modelling, and everybody started doing this swap. That's great. It's really, really good. But sometimes it could be like, especially after working the editing, you're like, I'm really getting paid for this. I reckon from the age of about 17, when I started doing it with a bit more heart, 17, 18, 19, like nobody paid me. Like sometimes if I did it for a family member, they came in 20 quid, which was really a big confidence boost. But I didn't even call myself a photographer until I was 20. I was like, well, I can't call myself that. Because I was part-time, I was always working another job, whether it was in the casino, so I never felt that real confidence of going, this is what I do for a living, people can pay me. So until I got personal confidence, nobody was really willing to pay me. See, the day that I put my foot down, well, not put my foot down, I wasn't, people weren't taking it, some people did take advantage, but the day I put my foot down and had a bit of confidence, this is my job, this is what I, this is what I'm doing for a living, I need to get paid for this, and obviously, as long as I'm teaching myself new skills and I'm doing well, I deserve to be paid. And the day that happened, I've not done a free shoot. And realistically, unless it's sort of off my own back or a close makeup artist friend or a model, whatever, I've not done a free shoot essentially in like a year and a half. I say that there has been wee things, but predominantly I don't essentially do them anymore because I get paid for them. If I want to do something really exciting, like tomorrow, I'm doing a Halloween shoot, and this is very, very exciting. So you'll have to like me on Facebook to see it. A bit of advertising. That'll be free. That's a bit of a collaboration for excitement for Halloween and whatnot. But yeah, no, you do have to do that, or otherwise nobody's going to know who you are. So that sort of trade-off is sort of necessary in a lot of field, any field really. If you're, unless you're kind of like builder, I can't imagine you would do a free wall or house or something. But as a photographer or anything sort of creative, you kind of got to give a bit of that was me. Yeah, so I'm ripping out build leather for next week. Thank you. No worries.
We have small souvenir from Winter Fresh Gym. We hope it will be very useful in your job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you will enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So for now.
And now we're gonna announce a photography competition. And I welcome Jana. She's our VP of Vice President of Events. So welcome, Jana.
Hello guys. So from tonight officially we are launching our Dundee Enterprise Photography Competition. In order to be in the competition and to compete, you need to have an account with us. And if you still don't have one, you can create one on Enterprise Gym website, and then you can submit your photography and paragraph on our email. So you can win a Kindle tablet as a prize, and what we need you to submit is a photograph answering the theme, what makes you stand out from the crowd. You can either submit 3 photographs or just one, but you only have one entry, and you need to, as well with that, as I mentioned before, submit a paragraph describing exactly the idea behind the theme and how it is related to you, which is up to 50 words. The winner will be announced on the 3rd, 11th, 14th this year. This is our next Learn from the Best series event. So it will be again here in Dalhousie from 6 o'clock. And this event is supported from the Dundee University Photography Society. Is there anything else?
Just any questions about the photography competition? Siobhan's going to be one of the judges.
So be nice. I'm on Facebook. Get extra. No, I won't. I'm fucking partial.
Yeah, so just one photograph, or you can enter up to 3 photographs as one entry, if that makes sense.
Do you mean like a triptych?
Yes.
Okay, like 2 cards. Okay.
and just your 50 words describing why your photograph makes you, or why you've chosen those photographs as the theme for standing out from the crowd. That's it. Closing date 27th of October at 5 p.m. and announced, as Siobhan said, on the 3rd of November at our next Learn from the Best series.
Do we have to take, are these photographs we take?
You have to take a photograph. They have to be photographs that you take. And we do check Google, and we do put them through various other bits of software as well. We ran this last year with a different theme, and there were few students' entries were thrown out. Because when you went into Google, they were there.
Sometimes I get a call from the college saying a couple of my portraits have been used as the entry. You know, people use, like, if they don't really have a portfolio but they want to go into the college, they go out and take some snaps. Like, I've had some people nick it off my website and they put it, no, you can get rid of my watermark, so they come in with it. Siobhan, there's been photos, I think these are yours, and I'm like, yes. So, yeah, it's quite easy to bust people for a bit of plagiarism.
Yes.
Your advice is if we're going to steal, remove the water.
Yeah, definitely. It's dead easy and fun.
Think of it as a plagiarism in an academic piece of written. Okay.
Does it have to be only us, or can we maybe take a photograph of somebody? What makes him stand out with the crowd? Because sometimes we like those.
I think open interpretation. Yeah. Open interpretation.
We could be flexible in that interpretation. Yeah. But there'll be kind of two parts to it. There'll be one where Siobhan will be judging the best photograph from an artistic point of view, and then we'll actually put some other ones, maybe the top 5, onto Facebook where you can vote for it. You can vote for the most popular photograph. It may not necessarily be the most artistic one. It'll sort of be, two competitions within the competition sort of thing.
Yeah, check our Facebook for more prizes that we're gonna.
Yeah, there are more prizes coming on stream.
The Ferrari, she was telling me about it.
Yes, we will be giving away a photograph of a Ferrari, which definitely makes you stand out from the crowd. Any other questions about the competition, or any last questions for Siobhan? I'm conscious of our time. Nope. In that case, thank you very much for attending, and say thanks to Siobhan once more, please.
Thank you.